Blizzard did it again. When I think they can't disappoint me more, they managed to exceed my expectations and deliver a story that feels so cobbled together that it's borderline embarrassing to play through. This isn't a story of what Blizzard managed to do. It's a story of what they consistently can't and won't do. The Horde and Alliance are dodging the Midnight story like they owe child support. The Midnight bell tolls, people, and the Void Spire story mode went live, which means everyone can experience what transpired at the Spire and how we fulfilled Metzen's age-old BlizzCon promise.
You will not only help reunify the scattered elven tribes of Azeroth,
just in the worst way possible. Hello, 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 everybody. It's your boy Jmulls, and the Darkwell is here. Let's set the stage. Last we left off, we began the raid in the Void Spire to take the fight to Xal'atath alongside the Army of the Light, and after defeating bosses that the tanks in range can deal with, we arrive at the final boss, the Crown of the Cosmos, where we fight off Void forces and an Illyria being overtaken by the Void itself, and we do so. But Xal'atath is a fan of the old reliable backshot, and successfully extracts Lurda, the Dark Naru Illyria had inside herself since the days of Legion. The Void Spire overcomes the Beam of Light. Illyria and Turalyon are seemingly lost. Umbric yoinks only Eretor and us out of there. Honestly, Chad move. And we witness the coolest part of Midnight so far. The Sunwell has fallen, and the Darkwell has taken its place. Okay, cringe name aside, it is a great visual. And I love the storytelling using the world itself. And the change in music for Silvermoon is such a welcome touch. This is the highlight of this story so far. And before you get overly excited, this is the high point. We only go down from here, with one little half exception. Oh, by the way, we apparently lost the Army of the Light in all of that. Sure, whatever. And now we're down to just Void Elves and Blood Elves. We are undermanned for the fight to come at the now fallen Isle of Quel'Danas, so naturally, we look to our respective factions. I mean, the Void Elves are part of the Alliance and the Blood Elves part of the Horde. So the plan is set. Umbric and Anduin will go to Stormwind, where Anduin will possibly reclaim his throne after his whole arc in the war with it, especially in the Light's direst hour of need, while the Blood Elves seek the power of the Horde by going to Orgrimmar and calling the members of the Council to muster their forces in defense of one of the most important capital cities the entire Horde has to offer, right? Wrong! Instead of doing the obvious thing, we, and by we I mean Eretor and Lor'themar, come up with the dumbest plan humanly possible, or should I say elvishly possible. Go cry to the Night Elves and also the High Elves in order to get their help in defense of Silvermoon and the battle to come. This is a perfect example of Blizzard having a story they want to tell and completely ignoring the world, history, and just plain common sense of the game they are telling this story in, because they simply want to tell that one story. They want light versus shadow. We had that, and now they want the elves to unite. So now we're going to ignore the Horde, the Alliance, everyone and everything, hand wave it all away, because we want the elves to come together and have their big elvish moment. It honestly just feels as if Blizzard are simply embarrassed by the existence of the Alliance and Horde. The rest of the story from here on is so bland and basic that it's a chore to get through. We just had the Darkwell descend on the ancestral home of the Blood Elves, and what do? Naturally, we help some ancient throw rocks around and collect a bunch of old relics, because we have to deal with the dumbest characters coming up with the dumbest reasoning to justify tensions in the moment of this world's possible end.
Once again, the Sunwell invites corruption and calamity. How many times must its mere existence imperil our world?
I know it's Azeroth, and I know we've been around this block many times before, but if you want the threat to feel believable, make it feel like a threat. It's like we had some backroom deal with Xal'atath for prep time. I get what they're trying to do here. They want payoff for all the various conflicts these different elven factions have been through with each other. The problem is, that's all they can think about. The Night Elves are still upset said about their bonfire, tree, and the High Elves and Blood Elves never really got over the whole Dalaran purge and mana bombing a Theramore. Like, I get it, and in some way, it does make sense to address it, but it's the way they go about doing it. It just makes every character involved feel like a ginormous idiot because the end of the world is being cooked up right over there. How is everyone else just unaware of this? Did we forget to tell them? Did we keep it a secret? I'm not joking. We had to tell Chandris and the Night Elves about all of this. They didn't know. It's lazy, contrived writing meant to give the feeling that there is build-up here and tension, but it falls flat on making it feel meaningful because it all feels so conjured up and elementary that it's impossible to take seriously. And Maiev exists just to be a contrarian and dump exposition. They use stay a while and listens in a poor attempt to try and justify what they are currently doing and dump more exposition. It's just lame, man. Why are we acting like the pre-patch quest line with Erator and Verisa just like didn't happen? That's at least how it feels. It's like barely even addressed, if at all. Midnight had so much potential to be a genuinely great story and step in the right direction for World of Warcraft, and it just falls flat on its face, buried under the weight of promises that the story will be better. And while there are moments where the potential truly shows, like the Void Spire cutscene itself, everything after that just sours the experience. And I think that's the real punch in the gut when it comes to Midnight. There are moments, these sparks, where you go, this could be so dang good, and just everything surrounding that fails. The leveling campaign, I can ignore. Like, I can forgive that if the post-leveling campaign was able to pull its weight, but it doesn't. It's arguably worse. And by being so bad, it retroactively makes those quests, those stories, even worse. Because now we know it all just leads in the dumbest direction possible. The funny part about all of this is that the High Elves themselves are like fine. They still hold some grudges over the whole mana bombing a Theramore situation, but that entire like section of the quest chain is more so trying to convince the Blood Elves to allow the High Elves to help them, because of the whole purging of Dalaran thing. And like, I'm sorry, I can't take that seriously. It's so cataclysmically stupid and idiotic that in the moment we would allow Ethos to have like any semblance of power to resist like having the High Elves come in to protect all of Azeroth from the cosmic void threat, that we have to waste our time trying to gather these relics and take care of the souls of Dalaran that are, for some reason, like in the High Elf village, sure, okay, that it just makes Ethos and so many of the Magisters look like idiots. They kind of are, don't get me wrong, but like not in a this is additive to the overall story kind of way, in a way that's just, they feel artificially stupid. Like, at least it didn't take Chandris with the Night Elves like that long to convince her to help us. The dumb part of the writing there is one, having Maiev like talk down to us the entire time, but also that for some reason the Night Elves were the priority. Like, we need a massive buildup of military force to defend Silvermoon, and the first people we go to are two groups of people where it seems like they just get repeatedly massacred every Tuesday. Like, how many Night Elves exist at this point? 12? Call for the Alliance, call for the Horde. It's a thought that like I simply can't get over because our solutions to these problems are so stupid, man. The other worst part about all of this is that Midnight's an actually good expansion. Like, I enjoy playing the game. I enjoy the raid. I enjoy the dungeons. I enjoy the delves. I love Prey as a system. Astalor is awesome. One of the best characters they've come up with in like over a decade, if not longer. There are so many great elements to Midnight. It's the main story. It's so wildly incompetent that it baffles the mind. And like, that's the only word I can think of to describe the current story in Midnight. Incompetent. I talked about this with my overall review of the leveling campaign. It gets worse the more you think about it, because the cracks in their logic start to become way more apparent when you approach this story at anything other than a surface level, because it simply doesn't make sense. They just ignore the rest of the world. They ignore what would be the most logical course of action in the context of the world, because they simply have a story they wish to tell, and they ignore everything in order to tell that story. Like, the other half halfway decent bit in this story is that they actually remember the Nightborn exist. Yeah, I was shocked by this too. Thalysia just kind of walks up. Glitches, by the way, like the game didn't even want it to be there for me. But she is present. She has a little quest line where you go, all right, why are the Nightborn not here? Because even Thalysia is like, I've been in contact with them. Where are they? And it turns out Suramar was just infiltrated by the Twilight's blade and we have to go deal with that. We have to delve with it too. It's like, okay. I love the Nightborn personally. I think the excuse they came up with for why they've just like been absent is pretty weak, but like at least there was an effort there, you know what I mean? Like with the Horde and the Alliance, there barely even is. Also, I think the excuse they try to come up with as to why we can't get like the Horde or the Alliance here in proper form is like Silvermoon has really good protections against teleportation and like telemancy overall. Like Arculith even struggles with this. And again, we circle back to what I keep talking about, where the story gets worse the more you think about it, because are you trying to tell me the Horde throughout the entire tenure the Blood Elves have been a part of it? Like since TBC, a lot of time has passed. No one in the Horde ever like conjured up a scenario that Silvermoon could be threatened and the Horde would need to be mobilized. Like no one thought of this. The whole plan was just, let him burn again. Like what are we doing here? Can we approach this with an ounce of realism, with an ounce of thought? Our main plan is to go gather a group of night elves and high elves that, by the way, aren't thriving civilizations right now with massive standing armies. It's like the night elves experience like a genocide every other Tuesday, and the high elves have like one Minecraft village on the end of Eversong, but like we're supposed to believe that because we got like 40 new elves, we're gonna be able to win the day. At least we got like the ancients for the night elves. The high elves apparently have dragons now. Okay, sure. And the Nightborn have the arcane constructs. Like, okay, brother, cosmic invasion of the world right over there. Can we have a little bit more than this though? Like I said, this story gets worse the more you think about it, because they're only writing this story with a very surface level understanding of its history and also world. There's no other explanation here. It's like the writing team at Blizzard only remember a handful of events and just ignore everything else. It's borderline insulting to anyone that has any familiarity with this story. And it's also jarring because the rest of the Midnight expansion is so much better than this, but they put their worst foot forward when it comes to the main story. Every side quest that I've done in Midnight is better than this, is better written, has better characters, is more well thought out, is more enjoyable than this slop. I'm me, right? I'm the kind of guy that jumped in a well in Xenogears like 50 times in case there was extra items, and there were, by the way. So during the quest, I talked to this other NPC, and I kid you not, one of the lines of dialogue is basically, you can't just throw orcs to the problem, and like, you kind of can. I never thought I would see the day when I wish we could just throw orcs at a problem. My brother in Christ, you can. But there has to be standing armies out there who can be relied on, like the Horde. Hi, Romoth. Funnily enough, you can throw orcs at the problem. You want to know why? Because we're part of the Horde. You know who else is part of the Horde? Orcs. Like, that's the beautiful thing about the Warcraft story. There's not a single problem you can't just throw more orcs at. And with the Horde being basically AWOL throughout all of Midnight, actually the Blood Elves are part of a Horde, so they're technically there. It's like, oh my god, talk about missing the point, by the way. Just having that text be present, it's like both funny, but also a slap in the face at the same time. It's not like the story of Midnight and this post-leveling campaign take place over the course of 2 hours. God, this story, man. I don't think it would take much to make me like the story. I don't have particularly high standards when it comes to stuff like this. And I think in quite a few ways, it is easy to please me. It's just their main story writing is so wildly stupid and incompetent that they're not even able to reach my low standards. And it's amazing how they continue to trip over their own 2 feet when it comes to the story. Like, it gets to a point where it becomes genuinely impressive. I want WoW to be better. And I think as a game, it's in a far better position than where it was only a few years ago. But so far, the World Souls saga has been an utter failure of storytelling. It has now gotten to a point where I think I can safely say I enjoyed the 7.0 Dawntrail story for Final Fantasy XIV more than the Midnight story up to this point. I'll go an even step further. I think Wu Klamat is a more compelling character than anyone not named Astalor in Midnight. If you know my thoughts on Dawntrail, that should put into perspective how poorly carefully told and constructed this narrative is. And it shouldn't be like this. This is amateur hour stuff. These are basic mistakes that should never have even been made. These are mistakes that get wiped from the whiteboard the moment anyone in the writing room sits back for 5 seconds and ponders the actual story going on. It reeks of either ignorance or embarrassment of the world and the story up to this point. Blizzard, World of Warcraft deserves better than this. Now, let me tell you a story of how Google AI spoiled me, possibly, on the March on Quel'Danas raid. So, during our time with the Night Elves, there's a moment where they talk about the Blood Elves' dependency on a font of power like the Sunwell, and how the Blood Elves need to move on from this way of thinking and this reliance. And after Lorthamar doesn't shut it down, I go to the map screen to see what chapter we're on in this campaign. And I read the final chapter name, Dawn of a New Well. And I go, maybe the resolution to all of this is going to be that we are able to reclaim Quel'Danas and we make a new well called the Dawn Well, because, you know, the expansion was called Midnight. The final boss of the March on Quel'Danas is called Midnight Falls. We had Nightfall back in the War Within. Now it's Midnight. Next thing will be the Dawn. Nah, surely they wouldn't do that, right? So I go, I wonder if there's already a thing in Warcraft lore called the Dawn Well, because that term felt a little bit familiar to me. So I go to Google. I'm like, World of Warcraft Dawn Well. Google AI immediately goes, yeah, so after the March on Quel'Danas raid, they make a Dawn Well. If that ends up being the finale to all of this, oh my god. I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, because I'll have a lot to say. I'll at least give them the opportunity for me to, like, see it in-game with proper context and all that. But, man, oh boy. And now if that doesn't actually happen, you know what? I might be pleasantly surprised. Who knows? And here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on the current state and future direction of the World of Warcraft story. What do you like about it? What do you think needs to be changed? And what do you hope to see in the future? Blizzard, I want to love you. Just give me a reason to. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you want to see future content. And you want to see how this whole story at Midnight wraps up. Because believe me, when we march on Quel'Danas, I will be there. Circling back though, I did call the end cinematic for the Void Spire a high point, because it was pretty dang good. And I hope the future of WoW can feel more like that than the quest that came after. But I go more into detail about why that cinematic was so good right here, so go check it out. Thank you all for tuning in, stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye everybody, until we meet again!